Good morning, YouTubers. T-Square here with T-Square Talk. Hope everybody's having a great day. Got a great video planned out for you guys today. Today, I want to talk a little bit about the Fed rate meeting that is coming. The Fed rate decision, whether or not they'll cut interest rates or not, I think it's going to have a direct reflection. Obviously, it will on gold and silver and on what's going on right now. Easy and cheap money tend to make prices go up. And so I kind of want to talk a little bit about that today. And I think it could play in the results of the Fed meeting, could play in nicely with what is fixing to happen at the end of the second financial quarter, which is at the end of this month. I expected, like I said, I expect to see a little bit of a pullback as we get closer to the end of the month. How low of a pullback, I don't know. The only way that pullback could happen, I think it's most likely to happen with a rate basically just staying the same because a lot of people now are pricing in the potential of a rate cut. And so that's why, we're seeing jumps on a lot of prices right now. People are already expecting essentially cheaper money. And so they want to kind of get in front of it and basically place their bets now and be ready. So with that being said, we're going to talk about that today. We're going to go over where prices are right now, what's going on. And a special thank you to all of the members of the channel and everybody that hits that thumbs up button. I can't thank you enough for that. We are trying to grow the channel still, even though it has been amazingly slow. It is summertime, so not much going on. And I do videos every Monday through Friday right now. Once summer's over, I will probably more than likely go back to doing videos 7 days a week, but we're going to play that by day. With that being said, let's jump in and see what's going on with prices. Okay, so don't forget to hit that thumbs up button if I didn't say it. So right now we got silver sitting at $34.51, pretty much going sideways, not really showing much up, much down, but doing a good job holding its own. Where a lot of people thought summer's here, this is when the metals will probably get crushed, and I still think that's a possibility. We could see a good crushing at the end of the month, but I think it's going to be very short-lived. I think right after that we're going to see it pop right back up, kind of like we did see at the end of the first financial quarter. We saw that big drop. So but looking good, holding its ground at $34.51 unless you're looking for a buying opportunity. And then I know some people they're looking at that saying, I'm going to wait until it dips and then I'll buy, including myself. So taking a quick look at what's going on with gold. Gold also kind of going sideways, holding its own, moving up $20, moving down $20, sitting right now at $3,363, down $8 as of right now in overnight trading. Nothing really major. This gives prices of precious metals a good opportunity to kind of stable out, and then we start seeing some deals in the form of lower premiums. Once you have big moves, a lot of times that either promotes heavy buying, which pushes the premiums higher, or we see essentially less people buying because they lose a little bit of interest in it and they lose a little bit of faith in it, I guess you could say. And as that happens, then you see buying slow and then premiums dip, and the price kind of dips, but it hasn't been doing much of a dip lately. So we'll see how that plays out as the month goes on. I think there's going to be a big buying rally right after we see a major dip. And I think that a lot of the action is going to start when the Fed meeting happens, because if the Fed meeting doesn't cut interest rates, we could see a nice little pullback on gold and silver, and then we can see a paper push to beat the price down on precious metals even more, making it a good opportunity and give them something to talk about. I actually heard the news talking today, expect a big pullback on the price of gold. Now, I'll be honest, when I hear stuff on the news, I always second guess it because, let's be honest, most of the time what the news is saying is usually wrong. However, I think they could be right in the short run, but wrong in the long run, because they also said expect a big pullback over the next couple of months. Now, I don't entirely know if that's going to play out that way. I do think that people will start seeing that pullback form And then once it does form, a lot of people will miss the opportunity because it will have a quick retracement back higher, and then it will kind of levitate probably until some action starts. The fact that it's holding its own for the summer and I know someone's going to say we're not technically summer. I'm telling you, it feels like summer here. It's been almost 100 degrees every day, so it definitely feels like summer. But it's normal that we see a big pullback anyway in the summer. We're not really seeing that right now. Taking a quick look at what's going on with Bitcoin, we got Bitcoin as of right now pretty much also trading sideways, sitting at 104,886, up 0.1% or $138. Pretty much going sideways, nothing major really to talk about until we see some big move on it. A lot of people still saying that we're going to see astronomically high prices. Are we going to see $135,000? I'm kind of looking right here at some of these headlines. Are we going to see $135,000 anytime soon? Obviously, if they do cut rates, unfortunately, well, I shouldn't say unfortunately. Darn it, I'm sorry, because I know some of y'all are invested in Bitcoin. I won't say I'm jealous, but it definitely, someone said, you may not be jealous, but it definitely has free rent in my head. And it does, because I do pay sharp attention to what's going on with Bitcoin. Hey, I'll be honest, I'm not in it. Sometimes I wish maybe I was, but I certainly would not buy up here where it's kind of just trading sideways and that's it, So we'll see how it plays out. Taking a quick look at the DXY index, we got the DXY down a little bit. Even though it's showing it up here, it's down a little bit from yesterday's video as it is trading under 99. So we're trading at 98.92. But when I say down a little bit, it is a very little bit down. We're barely a drop there. And I think right now what's scary is a lot of people are looking at the DXY. They're looking at the treasury bonds, and they're looking at the potential of a interest rate cut. Now, one thing to know, when that Fed meeting comes up in less than 2 weeks, if they decide to cut interest rates, a lot of investors are not going to want to invest in treasury bonds because they're just not paying. Can you imagine putting your money in a savings account that's not paying you hardly anything when you could be putting it into, I'm going to say, gold, silver, or Bitcoin, or anything that's, going up in value that doesn't really have a cost to hold? Now, I know some people out there say, well, technically gold and silver, it has a cost to hold. It really doesn't. I mean, people could hide their coins somewhere unless you're publicly talking about it. Like me, I publicly talk to a lot of people about it, so obviously I'm not going to keep it at my house. But for most of you that don't go out and tell everybody, you just kind of keep it low key and you can park it anywhere, really. Now, are there going to be risks? Of course there's going to be risks. Someone could randomly target your house, break in, take your stuff. I mean, it can happen. Hopefully you've taken countermeasures, you've taken precautions, and that way you're not an easy target. I can tell you I've actually had my house broken into one time. Not by someone that was like the brightest crook based on what they had took in and what they had done. One of the things that came up missing was a huge candy bowl on the counter. Literally. I mean, who takes that? So it's kind of interesting. With that being said, take precautions, obviously, whatever you decide to do. Moving on, taking a look at the national debt. I like to take a look at this every day because I'm kind of, I don't know if I should say exciting, but yeah, I kind of am excited to see us hit $37 trillion in debt. And why is that exciting? Because the deeper in debt we go, the more people realize that this system is broken and it's unsustainable. And eventually when people wake up to that, then once you acknowledge that there's a problem, then you can start working on it. Anybody that's ever been to any kind of rehab knows the first step is admitting that you have a problem. And once you can do that, then you can work on solutions. But until then, that's it. And, as that debt clock continues to grow higher and higher, I had someone tell me it's going to go to 40 trillion. Here's the thing. It's inevitable that it's going to keep going up. It doesn't seem like they want to do what's necessarily to bring it down. And we'll see how that plays out. It's going to be interesting to see. Are there, stuff like the big beautiful bill that's going to push this even more in debt? Yes. And there's hopes that maybe some of that will get spent on good things. But the truth of the matter is, I'm not going to lie, I've given up on politics. It doesn't matter who's in, whether it's left wing, right wing, it's all going downhill. And all you can do is look out for yourself in this aspect. Help your friends if you can. Try to explain to them what's going on. But at the end of the day, what's going to happen is going to happen. You're not going to have anybody come in anymore and fix our problems. Our problems have gotten so bad. That's it. The only way they're going to get fixed is essentially if there is some devastating event that just destroys essentially the US dollar. And it's sad to say that. I was actually just watching Batman the other night, Batman Begins, I think it was. And, one of the scenes he was saying that, it just like a forest, when it overgrows and it just becomes too big, eventually a forest fire happens and it basically resets everything. And I think that's ultimately what it's going to take to put the United States back on the right track. It's sad to say that. I know some people don't like hearing that. This is a great country, especially if you're an older person and you've defended this country, or you feel like you've put a lot into this country and now it's just going downhill faster and faster. But it's not the country necessarily. It's some of the practices. It's the way we are. We have just became gluttons for spending. And it ain't just Congress, don't get me wrong, because the average person is heavily in debt. I'm not sure where it is. I wish I could find it. There used to be something, household debt, on here. Let's see if I can find it real quick. Take a quick minute. Average household debt. Total debt to GDP, spending, debt per citizen. I don't think that's exactly what I'm looking for. Local debt, state debt, reciprocal debt, average salary. I don't know where it went. Darn it. Total U.S. debt. Credit card debt. That might be it. Credit card debt in this country. Let's see. Millions, billions, trillions. $1.3 trillion in credit card debt right now. That's an average household debt of 8,231. That's based off of the census, the population, and how much debt they have. So literally, the average person owes $8,000. Now, I'll be honest, I'm part of that. I actually owe more than $8,000 now because I did end up placing a slight wager on precious metals. And I ended up not only placing a wager, but I did it on a credit card, which adds to this number, but I also did it at a 0% for a year. And the expectation is in a year from now, I expect the price will be more on the precious metals, and I'll have made the right choice, basically buying my metals tomorrow at today's prices. So we'll see how that plays out. And I know a lot of people are against that. They sent me a nice little, reward, I guess, a nice little cash reward that I can just purchase something, and I was like, that's kind of cool. Nice little return. I got anywhere from 1% to 5% rewards, and I know I've read the comments before about how them rewards are just a trap and they're bad and you shouldn't use them, but I can tell you, if done properly, you can do well with it. I enjoy my credit cards, but I use them very responsibly, and they haven't made no money off me, so I don't think they like me. I think that's actually why they gave me that 0% for 1 year, because they know, hey, how else are we going to trap him? We'll get him to overspend and see what he does, and then hopefully he won't pay it off in time, and then we'll really get the big interest off him, the 25% interest or whatever it is. But they're not going to get me. Not like that, they won't. With that being said, we'll wrap up enough on that. Checking in real quick on what's going on with the Dow Jones, the NASDAQ, and the S&P. We got the Dow Jones right now trading at 42,427, down 91 points, or about 1/4%. Not anything that bad, but it was interesting because the NASDAQ and the Dow Jones kind of swapped positions. So we had the Dow Jones down 1/4%, then we had the NASDAQ up 1/4%, with the NASDAQ closing out at 19,460, up 61 points, or basically 1/3%. And then we also have the S&P trading up slightly. I'm going to say not even really trading up, let's be honest. 59.70 as of right now, closing out, up 44 cents, or 0.0074%. Very small percentage gain there. And like I said, obviously the Fed rate cuts is going to be the big story coming up in the upcoming weeks. Everybody wondering what's going to happen. Obviously, in short, layman's terms, if they decide to cut interest rates, you can expect to probably see a jump in gold and silver. Now, how long will it last? Who knows? Because sometimes when you see a big jump in something, you instantly have profit taking that could push it back down. Like I said, if that happens, I would expect not only profit taking shortly after, but I would also expect to see some sort of a paper beat down before the month comes to an end, as I've talked about that many times. And I'll talk about it even more as it gets closer and closer, especially because I'm not afraid to make a call. To make a prediction, to make a call, I'm not afraid of that. I believe in the numbers, I believe in the data that I see, and I bet my own money on it. And I don't recommend anybody do anything without their own research. However, that's my opinion, and so I'm kind of holding fast. And I know there's going to be comments that will leave when it has a big move up. Hey, we didn't see that dip you were expecting, or there's always naysayers out there. I had a naysayer comment not too long ago that basically said, yeah, I bought on a credit card like you did and I lost my butt. You know, the truth of the matter is, looking where silver prices are right now, it's highly unlikely that anybody is down on silver. We're pretty much right at the 11 or 12-year high on silver. Now, someone might say I bought during 2011 and I'm still down, and that's a possibility. But the problem or the mistake was not that they bought in 2011 or in 1980. The problem and the mistake that was made is that they didn't keep buying at the lower and lower and lower cost as the price fell back down. I mean, anybody can jump in and buy some at $50, but if you've been truly dollar cost averaging, it's not a big deal. You're making the right choice. You're going in, price gets cheaper. I can tell you right now, I'm buying even more. It's a little slower for me right now because I did end up kind of betting bigger when the price was cheaper. And I took that loan out and slapped it on a credit card, and now I'm using my money that I would be spending on silver right now at these higher prices. I mean, I looked today, and it was hard to find any silver under $38. So with that being said, you know, $38, I'm lucky. I bought mine earlier, and yeah, I've got to pay that credit card. But like I said, that's at 0%. So I can weather the storm and just keep paying back down that credit card. And if another big drop in the price of silver happens where we see a $29 or a $30 drop, I don't know if it will go that low. I would expect to see a $32 spot price again before the month comes to an end. Is that a big amount? Well, yeah, $2 an ounce. If you're picking up 100 ounces, essentially that's going to be $200. And that does put you in a little better of a position, because it doesn't take much to cover that premium. So I think it's going to be interesting to see, too, if they do decide to cut interest rates, what's going to happen to Treasury bonds. Who's going to want them? Because at the last Treasury auction, we didn't really see a lot of people show up to purchase Treasury bonds. In fact, from what I heard, nobody showed up. They weren't a hot seller, but that's okay for the time being. In the short run, it's not devastating, but it does show signs of a problem. And once you start seeing the signs of the problem, that's where more problems, because then people figure out what's going on. And once people figure out what's going on, it's like a fire and everybody's rushing to the exit. I mean, before someone hollers fire and everybody sees it, you can slowly walk to the door and not panic and just work your way out of the place. But once someone hollers fire, everybody is running to the exit as quick as they can. And that's where the problem really comes up. That's where it makes it difficult for you to get out. And that's why a lot of us are preparing now while stuff is essentially quiet. And hopefully you're buying the dip, because at some point something is going to happen. And even if the economy just all of a sudden boom and gets better, can you imagine what the industrial demand is going to be on silver or on copper? That's why I have been saving a lot of my copper for the time being. I know some people think, oh, I wouldn't waste my time on copper. It just takes up too much space. It does to a certain point, but I pick up a ton of copper on the side of the road. If I see something on the side of the road that has a good copper wire, whether it be a washing machine, a dryer, I'll pick it up. I'll take the cord off, I'll throw it in a bucket, and then I'll end up scrapping the rest. I don't save all the little stuff. I know some people, they save all the little wires and all the tiny stuff. Vacuum cords. How many of y'all seen a vacuum cord? A vacuum cord usually has like a 12 to 15 foot, essentially extension cord on it. You can literally cut it and then cut the plug, and boom, that's number 2 copper. Unstripped. So to me, it's worth it. I don't know the exact price of it at this exact moment. However, if you just throw it in a bucket and you keep putting it up, I know the last time I went, I can't remember if I got, the last one was the $800 one or if it was the $400 one, but it was essentially free money from stuff that I just picked up on the side of the road that people were throwing away. I actually went to a yard sale the other day and I bought a little box of extension cords. And I only paid $5 for it. They were spliced together, and there was some stuff, but they said, well, they still kind of work. They're just spiced together. And I said, oh, okay, then yeah, I'll take them. Take $5? And they said, yeah. And $5. I mean, the box probably had 5 pounds of copper in it. Now, yeah, I'm gonna have to drive them to the scrap metal yard, but it's worth it. And I think copper prices are going to really do really well in the future too. So with that being said, I'm going to wrap this video up here. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to check out some of these other great videos. I did a great penny video right here. This is definitely worth the watch, this penny one, because a lot of people are wondering what's going to happen. I actually had my son ask me today, aren't you afraid you might get stuck with all those pennies though, if nothing happens? The truth of the matter is, can you really get stuck with fiat currency? I mean, you can always cash it in. Yeah, you might have a missed opportunity. 2 $25 boxes of pennies is $50. Well, I could have bought an ounce of silver. Let's just say for a quick minute, $40. And if silver goes up to $50 and the pennies don't do nothing, then essentially, yeah, I lost 20% in one aspect by missed opportunity, but I didn't really lose anything per se. So that's why I'm not afraid to pick up these pennies. Get them while you can. I am convinced that we're going to see a copper rush. I know someone might say, well, most pennies are zinc nowadays. That is true, but there's a good percentage. From the comments that I had gotten, average box of pennies I'm hearing is anywhere from 10 to 15% copper. Well, that means 10 to 15% increase on $25 essentially. That gives you roughly, let's just say, a pound of copper out of every box. What does that do? That takes a $25 box pennies up to $30. And that's now. What will happen later? That's the big question. And in some aspects, if you're taking the time to separate them now, you can do well. I'll be honest, I'm guilty of not doing that. I pick them up, I put them in my storage unit, and that's it. I don't go through them right now. Will I go through them at some point? Yes, maybe. Or maybe I'll trade them off to someone that will go through them. I don't know. So with that being said, thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys again on T-Square Talk. Take care, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.